If there's another Susan in the room, just understand I'm talking to this Susan. I just don't want him to get confused. And in fact, if you are a Susan, is there any other Susans here? What's that? One. Yeah? Okay. You're Alexis from now on for the evening. Okay? We're just going to switch it over, because I won't be talking to you, but I need to borrow Susan's name over here. So Susan, listen to me. When God created everything in this world, there was one thing that really just kind of stopped him and said, that's it, I made it. It's perfect. And some of you might be going giraffes. You might be thinking giraffes. Giraffes are pretty cool. Susan, you probably like giraffes. They have the long necks, long legs, and everything. Some of you might be thinking walnuts. I don't think they're outstanding, but you might. I don't know where you're at in life and what you find exciting. Walnuts wouldn't be behind the list, but everybody has their own. I'm not here to judge people. Walnuts is your thing. It might be your thing, but it's not God's thing, okay? There was one thing in this world that God made that was the most amazing thing in the world, and some of you might know very well what that is. It is the 1980s. It was a decade. Yeah, it was an entire decade. Now, Susan, listen to me. The 1980s ran from 1980 to 1989. Every decade follows that same pattern all the way along, okay? You can look it up online if you need to, but it's a pretty standard thing. But see, what happened, Susan, was that as the decades went along and the 80s were there, God said, that's it. I made it. Like, that is it. We should close the whole project off. But then 1989 came, and it started to get close, and the heavens got a little bit nervous, and then the clock was about to turn over to 1990. And there was a lot of conversations going on. What do we do? Do we stop it? Well, we have this thing called time. It's in place. Do we just let time continue? What are we going to do? And finally, after a few of them had voted and stuff, and I'm sure God got the final vote. I'm not sure how it all works up there, but he said, no, you know what? We got to let time go on. And you can tell if you lived through the 90s, you would know that movies, songs, everything got real depressed, right, in the 1990s. Because the joy was lost. But God said, I will always have someone to hold the torch, to be the lampstand, to be the prophet, to continue to share the message of that is what is the 1980s. And he chose me. I don't know why. But he said, until I move on, this is my job, to make sure people like Susan understand how awesome that decade was. As is tradition, we take time in our November tour to talk about the 80s. Now listen to me, Susan. You probably think your generation is a pretty smart generation. You probably think, hey, we created some cool stuff. We're going to Mars. We're not going to Mars. We're never going to the moon. Check it out. Seriously, just look it up. So you might say, we got all this cool stuff. Say, wait, no, Susan, you haven't really created. Everything that has been made in this generation is a copy of something from the 1980s. Right? Movies, TV shows, whatever, even clothes. Everything is starting to come back from the 1980s. A tablet is a rewrite? Yes, we had tablets. We had chalk. We had chalk and tablets. So yes, Susan. This generation is a chatty group, aren't they? Just listen, Susan, just listen. I understand where you were going with that, and I actually, part of me wants to high-five you for it, because it was pretty brilliant, but I can't give you all the credit right now. But listen to me, Susan. In the 1980s, we created stuff that the world had never seen before. We created things that the world has has never been able to recreate. They still embrace it now. But Susan, just for the rest of you, as I take a moment to do my job, to make sure that Susan understands, the rest of you just embrace the moment and celebrate with me. But Susan, Susan, in the 1980s, we created things that the world had never seen. This here is one of the representations of that. Some of you already recognize it, you know what I'm talking about. Susan, this is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Are you familiar? You only named two. Raphael, Donatello. Yeah. No. One of them should have been named Timmy. All right, you got 3 out of 4. We're going to give you that one. Listen to me, Susan. Up until the 1980s, okay? The 1980s actually created turtles. There were no turtles before the 1980s. So we bring turtles in, which was a really cool thing that we did. But we didn't just create turtles, Susan. We created turtles that talked, that fought, that ate pizza, thank you, Susan, and were raised by a rat. Your generation hasn't created anything like that. That's outstanding. And so we created not only turtles, but everything that happened here with the Teenage Mutant Turtles, and they live on to this day. Now, Susan, you'll notice that the turtles aren't just green. Because the 1980s were more than just about creating cool animals. We were about color. If you look back in history, you look at images, okay? Color did not start until the 80s. We invented color, Susan. Look at the pictures, black and white, 70s, stuff got a little brown and yellow. It was moving towards color. But in the 1980s, we created color. It was outstanding. And then, Susan, we realized that now with color, we couldn't just talk about color. What would be the point of that? So we showed color. Now, Susan, you will notice that it's not just a singular color, it is multiple colors. It is a rainbow, right, because 1980s we invented rainbows. Wasn't around before then. You might say, oh, but back in the Bible it talked about a translation problem right there. Pretty sure rainbows were from the 1980s. Now listen to me, Susan. We were an extreme generation. For the record, these are my daughter's socks. She doesn't want them back. Listen to me. Susan, we also were an extreme generation. We didn't just like to have multiple colors. We liked to embrace the excess. And so, when we wore colors, we often wore them to like uncomfortable levels. Colors would go on and on and on. If we were going to do color, we were going to do it right, Susan. But Susan, you might be saying, that's amazing, that's cool, people like the extremes. We were extreme before all these X Games and all this stuff. We were extreme already. Listen. Part 2. Thank you for that timer alert. You actually answered it? I believe correct protocol is just to hang up and put it in your pocket. That's never happened to me before. No, that's crazy. Now, Susan, listen to me. that distract us. Susan, not only were we an era and a generation that enjoyed the extreme of excess, but we were a balanced generation. We didn't just like things that were long and big. We enjoyed brevity, shortness. Partway through this bit, I will turn to the other side for photo reasons. Okay? I don't have a good or a bad side, but I just want everyone. So partway through, I might just twist over to the side. Susan, listen to me. You might be saying to yourself, so seriously, that's how you guys walked around in the 1980s? Yes, we did, Susan. All of us did. Every single one of us that were around the time. This is how we walked around. Now, not everybody's legs were amazing, okay? But this is how we did it. But I would like to clarify, Susan, that walking was really kind of a misnomer in this because we didn't walk anywhere, okay? We didn't walk anywhere. In fact, you would say, what about cars? Cars were just a fad coming into the 80s. We were just beginning to understand cars at that point. We were the ones that really perfected the car. But early on, we were like, no, Susan. We already had the best form of transportation. Susan, these are roller skates. These are not roller blades, Susan. You're going to have to leave now. Susan, these are brown with orange wheels. Does anybody know what that represents? They're rentals. So why do I have them, Susan? Exactly. Listen to me. Susan, in the 1980s, okay, I was coming from a roller rink, because we all went to roller rink. Roller rinks were like the Tim Hortons. Every 3 minutes there was a roller rink. I went to this roller rink. I was running late at the end of the night. I had to get home to get curfew. So we went out to the car, me and my friends. There was this big parking lot. We were way at the back end. And partway through that journey to the car, they were all walking and I was rolling. And I was like, what happened? And I realized I still had the skates on, Susan. But I couldn't go back, Susan, because I was already running late. So it was okay. I just got in the car and I took them. Because you know why, Susan? Because in the 1980s, you could steal if it was inconvenient for you. Okay? Can't do it now because of political correctness. But back then you could do it. If it was inconvenient for you, just take it. It was fine. It was good. I don't recommend it now. We're not in the 1980s anymore, as sad as that is. As you can see, my toe is completely gone. That's where my stopper toe is. I actually wore these a little while ago, skating along the beach in Toronto. Everyone was in their roller blades. Very different things, Susan, than these. And I was going along, dressed accordingly. And as I went along this bike path, photos. Going along the bike path, and these two kids, probably about 10 years old, a little younger than yourself, they were sitting up on this rock, and they watched me skate by, and they were like, that's gangsta. It's a positive form of affirmation there. Gangsta. Do crossovers. It's what? Looks easy now, but when you're moving, it's not. So Susan, I'm going to do something right now, as is our custom. I'm going to take a few minutes to teach you everything you need to know about the 1980s. What I love about this crowd here is there's going to be people that they're going to be able to help me. And we are going to instill into your little young heart and mind everything. You don't even need to take notes. You literally just need to listen and soak in the joy of the 80s. You understand that? Susan, let me just get something here. Clearly I'm good. It's all just for show. Susan, I'd like to sing now, as is our tradition on the November tour. Something that will never leave your heart or your mind. If you are new here tonight, enjoy the ride. And you've been around for a while. Let's just drive this truth home, shall we? The song is called Santa, Please Bring Back the 80's. It's a prayer to Santa. It's not theologically correct, but anyways. For those of you who don't know what's about to happen, understand this. When you hear something that resonates within your soul, you cheer, whoop, holler, wave a flag. If you carry one of those around with you, I don't know. Do whatever you need to do. And let me know that you remember this from the 1980s. Everything you need to know, Susan, in one song. I wrote this song to the tune of Old Toy Trains by Nana Muscuri. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Nana, but she took that song from someone else, and so technically by law I'm not actually allowed to sing this song with that tune in an event that I've charged tickets to, but we're in Guelph. That's good. Here we go. Everything you need to know from the 1980s. It's one more thing that I did that was amazing. G.I. Joe, Optimus Prime, Thundercats, oh, neon all the time. Take your vitamins, train, and say your prayers. That's the Hulkster, Susan. He was a role model back then. Slammed a big man on a giant. I make my kids watch that video every year on the anniversary. You should check that out. Hey, you guys, everybody do the Care Bear stare. Some of you know. Okay, good. See, the 1980s were about love, Susan, and so we had these bears that fired love from their chests. They fired out like this. And so when we get to that part of the song, this is the audience participation part, you just gotta do this. You just fire the love back, okay? All right, it's very easy. You can do it. Here we go. Growing pains, Roscoe P. Coltrane, Cabbage Patch, Mr. T. Cowabunga, Santa, please bring back the 80's. Lift it up now. Leg Lamp, that was from, Leg Lamp is actually, it's just a bridge part, but it's from the Christmas Story movie. Check that out, Susan. Leg Lamp, G.I. Joe, everybody now. Optimus Prime, Thundercats, ho, neon all the time. Take your vitamins, train, and say your prayers. Hey, you guys, everybody do the Care Bear stare. All right. I think some of you weren't doing it. That guy there, fourth row back. I didn't see the arms move at all. Thank you. Yeah. Just because it's dark, there's a light right down the middle there. You are not out of this thing, sir. If you are in the middle of that section, I can't see you, you're probably good. But down this row, I can tell if your arms move. Atari, Samantha Misselli. Samantha Misselli, Alyssa Milano played her in Who's the Boss. She was my first celebrity crush. I actually met Alyssa at a mall in Toronto a couple years ago. I dedicated my book to her. I went down to the mall, brought her the book, I signed it for her, handed it to her. She smiled, so I know she read it. Cliff Clavin, great big hair, yippee-ki-yay. Don't finish the sentence if you know it. Susan is right here, guys. Let's just don't finish that sentence. Santa, please bring back the 80's. Come on now, lift the roof off this place. Leg lamp, G.I. Joe, Optimus Prime, Thundercats, ho, neon all the time. Take your vitamins, train and say your prayer. Hey you guys, everybody do the Care Bear stare. Love it. There's some harmonies going on the side. I don't know if you knew that. Here we go. Last verse. Here we go. Bon Jovi, Metal Bikini, Return of the Jedi, Princess Leia.
Oh, yeah.
When you're 13, that's memorable. Just saying. Michael Keaton, rocked Batman. Now here's the deal, Susan, listen to me. Michael Keaton is the best Batman that has ever been around. 1989's Batman, you need to watch it. Whoever's watching over you needs to sit down with you and watch that movie, okay? The Michael Keaton, then there's Adam West, the original Batman, right under him, probably a close 1A, 1B even. And then there's probably Christian Bale. George Clooney, as much as he's one of my favorite actors, he is at the bottom of the Batman list, like hashtag not my Batman. What you talking about? Santa, please bring back the 80's. Here's your last chance now. Leg lamp, G.I. Joe, Optimus Prime, Thundercats, ho, neon all the time. Take your vitamins, train and say your prayers. Hey you guys, everybody do the Care Bear stare. One more time. Everybody do the Care Bear stare. Last time. Everybody do the Care Bear stare. Love you, bro. That was awesome. Susan, literally everything that was awesome about the 80's is in that. You believe me, some of these people have heard the song. That song will not leave your head. It is in there now. You are welcome, Susan. You are welcome. I gotta take a step out of here. But when I come back, more to come. But before that, I want you to